This is the moment. This is the movement. Stand Up to Cancer.
Stand Up to Cancer.
Tune in September 7th at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on ABC, CBS, Fox, and NBC for the huge star-studded Stand Up to Cancer television fundraising special. Check your local listings for cable providers.
And donate now. Go to standuptocancer.org.
We used to have such wild dreams. The kind that brought us together, made us a movement.
We dreamed we'd split the atom,
walk on the moon,
unlock our very genetic code.
And to those who said impossible,
can't happen, won't happen.
We didn't hear a word.
We stood up.
And we changed the world.
Stand up. Stand up for everyone who can't rise anymore.
One person every minute.
One life in a moment.
One life.
Taken by a disease that we can actually cure.
We can actually cure.
And at the time it's taken to say these words.
One more American.
One more
American.
One more American has died.
En América más ha muerto.
Unforgivable.
This is where the end of cancer begins.
When we stand up.
Stand up.
Stand up. Stand up to cancer.
Donate now. Go to standuptocancer.org.
Fox News Radio, I'm Karen McHugh. 2 days till the start of the Democrat National Convention in North Carolina, a state the Obama team won 4 years ago, something they'd like to repeat.
With unemployment at 9.6% and President Obama supporting gay marriage, winning North Carolina may be a challenge. The jobless rate is above the national average, and Tar Heel State voters backed a ban on same-sex marriage earlier this year. Mr. Obama won North Carolina by 0.3 of a point over John McCain in 2008.
Fox's Mike Emanuel in Charlotte. Saturday, Mitt Romney campaigned in Ohio and Florida. It's the start of a new era for Penn State football.
Nearly 100,000 strong gathered to watch their Nittany Lions begin a new season following the Jerry Sandusky child sexual abuse scandal. Penn State led Ohio University by 11 at the half, but their mighty roar reduced to a whimper as the Bobcats won 24-14.
Fox News Radio, Steve Rappaport. Fox News, we report, you decide.
News Talk 1090 is the talk of Muskegon.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you
every pocket of my clothes. They want their hands, their fingers. They want their big sucking vacuum machine into the pockets of our clothes. Good morning, Muskegon. This is Eye on Muskegon, and I'm Jim Riley, your host for this community conversation. I'm here in Muskegon's Clear Channel Studios with my friend and engineer, that legendary Oscar Osbo. Good morning, Oscar.
Good morning.
And another familiar friend and our own Paul Revere, bringing truth to the citizens of Muskegon County. At least he's attempting to do that. And that would be Muskegon County Commissioner Alan Jagger. Good morning, Alan.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Came on his horse and everything.
That's right. He brought the horse. There is a problem, a little cleanup problem that we'll have to attend to later on. But we had planned on being joined by Muskegon Community College adjunct. That's a tough word to say in the morning. Adjunct Professor Dave Takitaki, which is actually a really easy word to say, Takitaki. David was going to be here this morning, but he had a little health problem. I'm assuming, at least from what he had said earlier, that it's a minor deal. But we do expect to have him back at some other time. So, one of the things that I've always liked to do when we with this show is to do a little things that happen on this day in history. And in 1789, just a wonderful event happened. Actually, it was a good event, but it seems to, like so many of the governmental ideas, perhaps grown outside its original intent. But on this day in 1789, the United States Treasury Department was established. So. For all of you, of course, they did add some additions to that, the Internal Revenue Service and a few others that popped up. But you can celebrate that today. If you are a resident or care much about the great state of Georgia, which, of course, is in the SEC, the Southeastern Conference for football. And, of course, the SEC apparently, as a group, must have a grump about those Northerners, because on this day in 1864, Union General William Tecumseh Sherman entered Atlanta, and he burned it down. So that may be the reason that the folks down in Alabama were so angry at the University of Michigan football team last night, and they did certainly almost burn down that University of Michigan football team. But
might as well have. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
It was a roughie. Yeah. Interesting two anniversaries on this date. In 1901, Theodore Roosevelt, then at that time he was the vice president of the United States, said, "Speak softly and carry a big stick." And essentially what he was saying was that talk is cheap, and if you are going to have any effect internationally, folks have got to know that big stick is your ability militarily to back up the big words. And on this same day, in 1945, was VJ Day, Victory in Japan. And that was the formal ratification of the Japanese surrender to the Allies on the deck of the United States Missouri, that beautiful United States battleship. Again, wars happen, and bad things generally happen when the bad guys see that they can get away with it. And one of the reasons that we respect our military and we respect our police, the sheriffs, and those folks who protect us, quite simply is that if they weren't here, sadly to say, there are a lot of bad folks out there, and they will come into our homes if we don't have the ability to protect our homes, and they will certainly come into our, as we found out in wars of the past, they will come into our country or into the countries of folks who we support. So, or
live here and take action later. Yeah.
Well, that's right. There's well. Now that you mention it, here's an interesting quote, and unfortunately, I don't have the person who said it, but it says, "How do you tell who's a communist?" Well, it's someone who reads Marx and Lenin. How do you tell who's an anti-communist? Someone who understands Marx and Lenin. And one more quote here in keeping with this. It says, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same." And I think that's really critical, that we understand that the American way of life, which some people have been quite clear on in that they are not fond of the American way of life, is something that must be passed on. And I must say that these moves throughout this country, but have just apparently hit in Muskegon County and in West Michigan out in Grand Rapids, where the school systems are now going to be providing free breakfast and free lunch to everyone in the schools, which I think the comment was to relieve the burden on the parents. That is a very frightening, to me, an inordinately frightening event. Not so much that we want kids starving, but we are so openly now replacing the federal government is stepping in and replacing parenting for so many of the people in our country, and we've seen how that's worked in cities like Detroit and in cities like Muskegon Heights and Flint and too many other cities. As a matter of fact, I interestingly just read this morning that the people in New Orleans still the most of New Orleans does not have electricity. And as if they never really expected, I guess, that they would have a hurricane down there in New Orleans, which, of course, we were well reminded of when President Bush was president.
Yeah, my sister and brother-in-law were just in New Orleans like 2-3 weeks ago, celebrating, having a good time, and everything else. And then, I guess they hit it just right for themselves anyway. But
there is a place for government. There's absolutely a place for government, and it seems to me that one of the places for government is to make sure that the people have electricity. At least make sure that the monopolies that provide the electricity are prepared, and also to make sure, and this may be something that they'll at some point admit to, but make sure that people who are living in places where the government, where just flat out they're not able to provide those basic services, that they got to tell people, look, you can't live here. Yeah. But one way or the other, a significant failure of government on one hand, and celebration of a significant expansion of government on the other.
Saying every pot have a chicken, it should be every house should have a generator.
Well,
of course, who could afford the gas to run it? But
well, and the problem with that attitude, which is, matter of fact, I'm in the midst of looking for a generator right now. The problem with that attitude is that we don't trust in government to provide the electricity on a consistent basis. So therefore, we're going to take care of protecting or at least providing power to our homes, and that goes with one of the reasons why we're seeing this tremendous jump in Michigan in the concealed carry for pistols, and people buying guns and other things, paying significant amounts of money for locks and things of that sort, because we're not trusting of our police departments and our sheriff departments and our legal system. Really, I don't think it's the police and the sheriffs. I think it's the legal systems that are failing us and letting folks either get out or just, for instance, we know in if you own any kind of a retail operation, if you run Myers or you run a Walmart, that shoplifting is essentially no longer a crime. They have to protect themselves. If Myers and Walmart and the rest of the stores in our community got rid of all of the employees that they have in order to keep shoplifting down, and all of the electronics and all of the money that they've spent, if they got rid of those, you know that those stores would shut down probably within a few months.
Right.
So there's been an acknowledgement among the business class, maybe not an acknowledgement among those of us citizens who go into the retail operations, but there's been a clear acknowledgement that the federal government, state government, the local governments have absolutely failed to protect them, so they must take steps to protect themselves.
On that, on the breakfast and stuff like that, they're also going to start supplying dinners to people that are in sports and all that, because they're not going home. So now we'll even do the supper for them too.
Now that's new to me. Yeah. Tell me now, what
I just
school
heard that on the news. I don't know who's doing it. I just heard that on the news. I think within the last week that we need to do it, or some schools are already going to start doing it.
I don't know how to respond to that. Those of us who are, I guess, in the senior, or as Rush Limbaugh might call it, the seasoned citizens range, when we would take a little, well, we didn't have the plastic bags. We would take wax paper. Not that horrible wax paper, but sandwiches, Wonder Bread, which of course builds in the old days.
They still make that?
They built that. Well, Wonder Bread, the company that makes Wonder Bread just went bankrupt, but I believe they still sell it. But anyway, we would bring our little sandwiches to school, and shockingly, well, the interesting thing is, shockingly, none of the kids were dozing off or passing out or looking like emaciated by aprons.
Peanut butter.
And we had peanut butter, and we didn't have kids, whose heads were exploding because of the various allergies that apparently 98% of the children in the country have today. But more importantly, we didn't have a bunch of fat kids. Yeah. Maybe free food. Maybe there's some kind of connection between a caring mother.
That wasn't politically correct the way you said that. It's kind of like the whole idea behind this program. It wasn't politically. It was politically correct as far as the way they stated it. As far as helping.
Yes. Yes.
Helping the family.
We got to be able to do more. I'm sure.
Well, truly, I mean, one of the heart tugging images of the past has been the child going to bed hungry,
right?
And nobody wants that, but we are moving so far away that from parental responsibility, we are taking any shame from a mother or a father or in many cases the grandmother, whatever, getting up in the morning and providing not just the making a sandwich, or just giving them a relatively small amount of food at a high school or a junior high or an elementary school in the state of Michigan in the cafeteria is not expensive,
right?
And I would imagine that in many of these kids, 1 month's worth of cable TV might very well pay for an entire year's worth of breakfast or lunch.
Well, we're supplying them with all their computers, everything they got to have now, so why not just put trailer houses around schools, and 5 days a week we just keep them all week and then just send them home on the weekend.
Well, that would relieve the parents of the obligation to have to take care and discipline their children and all that. You know how tough it is. I don't have children, but Alan, I know that wouldn't it be nice to have somebody else take care of the kids when they're sick, when their noses are running, and when they're nasty and the kids are having the temper tantrums and all. Wouldn't it be nice to have an expert, a trained professional take care of that for you?
Yeah, I think Miss Clinton would be right, because then we'd have a village raising our children. I mean, this would be...
We would have a village. And there's little question that the village people would certainly be better than the Jaggers or the Oscar Osbo family or any of the other families out there. Or maybe I have that wrong. But there was a police officer in the village people.
There was, yeah. Police and Indian and I don't know, a hard worker.
Well,
something, I don't know. Sorry,
that's again, that's where we're going, and we will continue to go this way. And I certainly don't blame the various social workers and the others who are involved in this. But I understand that Roger Miller's angry with them. So we will take a break so that we can pay for this show, and we will be back shortly.
This station is participating in a multi-market nationwide group contest where every weekday up to 10 lucky winners and 5 each weekend day will win a trip for 2 to the iHeartRadio Music Festival in Las Vegas on September 21st and 22nd. Airfare and hotel included. For your chance to win, listen here weekdays from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time and weekends 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time through September 16th, 2012 for the code word to be announced. Then text it to 36500 during the 15-minute entry period. One winner will be randomly selected each playtime. To play for free online and or for complete official rules, go to iHeartRadio.com/Vegas. Message and data rates may apply. Check your carrier for details. Open to legal residents of the 50 United States and the District of Columbia who are 18 years of age or older at the time of entry. No purchase necessary. The odds of winning vary due to the number of qualified entries received. Void where prohibited or restricted by law. Employees and immediate family members of Clear Channel and contest sponsors or their subsidiaries and affiliates are not eligible to participate. Approximate individual prize value, $2,800. Prize value varies depending upon departure location and time of travel. Prizes provided by iHeartRadio. Individual station participation times may vary. Check rules for local play times and opportunities. Additional rules and restrictions apply.
Is your company copying software illegally? Or worse, has your boss had you install illegal software on company computers? If so, your company is breaking the law. Don't be the fall guy. Report software piracy confidentially by the end of the year, and you could also receive a cash reward. Click onto the BSA banner below right now to report software piracy. You can also call 1-888-NO-PIRACY or visit nopiracy.org for more information. It's never been easier to report software piracy. Listen to the actual voice of someone who reported software piracy to the Business Software Alliance. How was your experience reporting piracy?
Very simple, very easy, completely confidential. I think the whole phone call maybe took 5 minutes. They just asked a few general questions, and from there they sort of took everything over on their own.
Click onto the BSA banner below now to report software piracy. You can also call 1-888-NO-PIRACY or visit nopiracy.org. Again, Business Software Alliance is offering cash rewards for qualifying software piracy leads.
Today's music stars learn from the legends. You can go right to the source with the Roots of Country channel. Hear the icons of country music nonstop. Merle. Hank. Tammy. Willie. I can't wait to get on the road again. George. He stopped loving her today. Johnny. I walk the line. The technology changes, but the music is timeless. Hear Roots of Country on iHeartRadio or at iHeartRadio.com.
Bow Hunters, Long Range Archery. The Lakeshore's largest archery dealer wants you to be ready to shoot a big buck opening day. Take your bow in and have the professional staff tune and set up your bow to fit you correctly. Long Range Archery at 2530 Van Omen in Holland and M120 just south of Twin Lake.
Up to meetings, the people who are activists ultimately do seem to get their way. And here's a headline that kind of caught my attention. This is from the Detroit News over the weekend. This is a Royal Oak. Protesters outraged over a recent medical report blasting circumcision, and they plan to demonstrate today outside Beaumont Hospital. So there's even a group who's so exorcised, so outraged, so interested in male circumcision that they are demonstrating. It would have been interesting, I think, to see the signs and actually see the people. But the change does happen. as we've just seen in this country. We had very significant. One thing about President Obama and the Democrats who promised us change, there's little question that we've had significant change in the last almost 4 years. And I would like to just to remind people that the Bush administration got pretty darned unpopular in the middle of its second term, and the Republicans were voted out in 2006. So the Senate and the House were controlled by the Democrat Party from 2006 to 2008, and then, of course, a resounding victory for the Democrats in 2008. The Republicans have only had a little under 2 years of control of the House of Representatives. In this 6 years, they've had the Senate the entire time. They've had the House for the 6 years, and they've had the presidency of 4 of the 6 years. So for the President of the United States to complain that he doesn't have the tools and that he doesn't have the ability to affect the change that he had so promised, in particular when he had 2 years with the House and the Senate, I don't think that is actually a believable excuse, and it kind of shocks me that so many people, in particular unemployed people, or at least people with college age or high school age kids who can't get jobs, that they would be supporting someone who had very clearly promised change and hope, or at least hope for positive change, that in fact they still, according to the polls, still support him across the board.
Yeah, and Bill Clinton, he got it done with having the opposite side across the table from him, and
he had Republicans in the House and the Senate, and he got things done. Ronald Reagan had Democrats for the most part of the time across the table from him, and so anyway, when election time comes, gnashing your teeth and baying at the moon and saying how awful things are isn't going to do it. Maybe you ought to take at least take a consideration from those folks who are adamantly against circumcision. It would not surprise me that at some point we're going to see a law coming through from the Democrat side in the state of Michigan that will ban, or at least we'll talk about banning circumcision. I know in California that law has been promulgated. I don't believe it's been passed. But anyway, hey, other things that do affect, we're going to talk about the jail, by the way, right after the 9 o'clock news, but other things that do affect you, and to me, culture does matter, and it seems to me that weaning your children away from you as a parent and letting your children know that the state or the city or the county is your parent, or the federal government for that matter, I think that's a horrible thing, and again, we've seen this, we've seen the results of this mindset in our communities, but there's another side to my interest in getting in community involvement and understanding what's going on, and that is, money out of your pocket. We know that there's an evil group of Americans who are not paying their fair share of federal income tax, and interestingly, it isn't the 50% of people who pay no income tax at all. For some reason, the people who pay no income tax are not accused whatsoever of not paying their fair share, but it is the other group that is being accused of not paying their fair share. And for the life of me, I don't understand how that argument has been able to survive. But in Michigan,
well, they pay their fair share. They just get it back at the end of the year.
Well, they don't, as a matter of fact. They don't.
You're talking about that percent. Okay, I got it.
Whatever. Well, neither. But one group that is paying their fair share, and we should all be proud of this, because in this case, Michigan is number one. We pay the highest annual car insurance of any group of folks in any state in the United States. Yeah. Now, I heard that we were number one, and I said, "Oh, geez, that's a bummer." But typically when you're number one, it's a small difference. Get this: the average cost of car insurance in this country or in this state is what they say $4,490, so $4,500. That's the average cost. The next highest median price. Let me say this is median price, not average price. Median price. The next highest is New Jersey, of all places, and it's $25.56. So we pay
twice as much,
almost double what the next highest in the state does. Now, this is primarily. There's an article in which I've put it in. This comes from Michigan Capital Confidential, which is the folks who who are doing the investigative journalism that the major media in the state of Michigan generally avoids. Go to Michigan Capital Confidential, or you can go to MuskegonPundit.com, and we've got it listed there. But they go through the reasons, and they primarily are that we are the only state that has unlimited medical. Oh. All right? Other states have maximums. Well, when it's unlimited, you end up paying more. What a shock. And I don't have the exact numbers in front, but in an MRI, nationally, an MRI costs something under $500. And in Michigan, an MRI, an insurance-related MRI, is about $4,500 because it's unlimited.
But you got to wonder how many people living close to the state line are running out-of-state plates. I mean,
that's an interesting thought. Sure.
We must lose thousands and thousands of dollars over this.
Well, think of it. I mean, and not only that, how many times do we hear, and this is another crime which has essentially been decriminalized, how many times do we hear the person involved in the accident didn't have car insurance? And what is the penalty given to that person who doesn't have car insurance? Essentially nothing. And it would seem to me that if you care about your family, if you're one of these folks who's getting up in the morning and actually making breakfast and lunch for your children, you might have to say, geez, oh, Pete's, $5,000 or $4,500 a year for my car insurance, and there's no penalty if I get hit or if I hit somebody else. Maybe I'm just going to feed the kids and I'm going to blow off the car insurance.
You're starting to talk me into this.
Well, I've got 7 kids, and to trying to convince them to get insurance was kind of difficult because that's exactly the same thought that they were thinking is, why would I pay this when I could, especially when they got PLPD, they don't have full coverage or something.
Well, that's right. Well, and again, of course, if you have a car that's a relatively new car, which is something you would think that the state of Michigan would be interested in promoting, when you have a newer car, of course, your insurance, the collision goes through the roof. Yeah. Exactly. So these are things that can be changed, folks. Pick up the phone and call your state rep.
Not to mention that my sister brought this up because she came from Florida, and they traveled all around. And she said Michigan is so far the highest gas price they've paid. And aren't we like the highest tax gas?
We are statewide. We're the highest or the second highest. I was out in California a couple weeks ago, and I noticed that on the day that I arrived in California, the prices in Michigan were a penny higher than what I saw in L.A. And when I came back, I double-checked because I had to fill up my rental car. And when I came back to Michigan, we were about 3 cents less than what it was in L.A. So, yes. Matter of fact, I don't know. I know that Governor Snyder had one of the programs that he had in place, or that he wanted to put in place, was to increase the taxes, the state taxes on our gasoline. I don't know, has that happened yet, or is that something about that?
I haven't heard it through yet.
Okay, so we are the 1, 2, or 3 in the United States of America in the highest gasoline prices, and our Republican governor. And I would assume with the support from the Republicans in the House and Senate, have decided to increase that so that we will be number 1 again.
Yeah, he doesn't decide whether or not the Republicans or the Democrats care. He just does it himself. That's the way he's been doing lately.
Well, generally speaking, he did veto the voter ID information. So when we come back after the break, we will talk about the jail, another place where your tax dollars may be just poofing away.
Don't you love me sometime?
I'm a professional drunk driver, so I take side streets. I keep both hands on the wheel. I turn off the radio. I drive with the windows down.
I don't make U-turns.
Don't tailgate. Don't pass. I don't speed.
Wear a hat. Drive in the fast lane.
I'm a professional drunk driver, so
I've heard all the excuses. We know all your tricks. Drive drunk, get a DUI, I guarantee it.
A message from the Michigan Office of Highway Safety Planning.
You wouldn't be surprised if a hippo sat in some dirty water, would you? It's what they do. So why be surprised that Esurance has some new lower rates on great car insurance? Raised by technology, they're super efficient. So foraging for lower rates is in their nature. Can an eagle keep from soaring? Nope. A pufferfish from puffing? No. New lower rates just come naturally to insurance of the modern world. Esurance. Now backed by Allstate. Click or call.
Visit esurance.com or call 1-800-ESURANCE for a quote. Not available in all states. Savings may vary.
See Muskegon and heard 24 hours a day on WOOD HD2 Muskegon.
The big sale is on at Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC's Used Car Super Center. Benton is overstocked with the largest selection of trade-ins from our model year and clearance event big sale. Shop the largest selection of GM certified vehicles with 1.9% financing. Plus every pre-owned vehicle sold, Benton will give you a free $300 gas card. Shop the largest selection of 2010, 2012 new body style Chevy Equinox starting as low as $14,900. Shop the 2010 through 2012 Chevy Malibu starting at $13,900. Nobody in Michigan sells more pre-owned vehicles than Benton's Used Car Super Center. We sell more, you save more. Right now is the time to get rock-bottom prices. Plus, Benton has authorized their staff to pay even more for your trade during the holiday weekend. Bring your title and get ready to trade up and save thousands. Shop our giant 20-acre motor mall only at the Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC Used Car Super Center, both sides of Henry Street, Muskegon. It's where Michigan shops. Benton.
Here's the official News Talk 1090 WKBZ forecast for today. Sunshine and clouds mixed and warm with a high of 87. East winds 10 to 20. Tonight partly cloudy, a low of 64 with east winds at 5 to 10 miles an hour, except for a few afternoon clouds tomorrow. Mostly sunny and warm with a high up to 88. North winds 5 to 10. And then for Tuesday, partly cloudy with a high of 84. On Wednesday, scattered thunderstorms are possible with a high of 81. News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon.
Have you ever dreamed of working for yourself, owning your own business, and having the freedom to work when you want? We're the marketing arm of a $3 billion energy company, immediately looking to find a few entrepreneurs or business owners who can recognize a great opportunity. Rarely are there offerings like this to make a minimal investment with the ability to create significant earnings and wealth. Learn more about becoming a part of our team at ejobswestmichigan.com. We provide the training and support to help you succeed. What are you waiting for? ejobswestmichigan.com.
Muskegon. News Talk 1090 WKBZ.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well,
and we are back at Eye on Muskegon, and I'm Jim Riley here, your host for this conversation with the good folks of Muskegon County, with Oscar Osbo and Muskegon County Commissioner, our own Paul Revere, Alan Jagger. We're going to talk about the jail, but I did want to mention one thing.
He's Mick's brother, isn't he? Mick Jagger.
Mick Jagger. Alan's name, and of course you've lived with this your entire life, but has been mispronounced by so many people. Jaeger and
Jaeger. Everybody's a Jaeger.
Jaeger and Jaeger and all. Okay. And I had to force myself to remember that Alan was the original, the spawn of the devil, Mick Jagger, and
one of the original Stones you were, weren't you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's got that whole aura around him. Yeah. Hey, I did want to mention one of our good friends, Jim Chiodo, down in Ottawa County, who has a radio show, and unfortunately I don't have his the link to his show, but he has a conservative radio show that he does down there. But he is one of the leaders, if not the chairman of the Ottawa County Patriots, which is essentially the Tea Party down there. And last week he did something called 3 Perspectives on Islam, and it was a sellout. They had 3 experts on Islam, and it was a wonderfully, from what I understood, and I've seen most of it on YouTube, a good program. But you can see this video if you're so inclined. It's on www.ottawacountypatriots.org, and that's Ottawa County Patriots is all one word. And the reason I bring that up was that last week, of course, we had Representative Ajima on the phone talking with us, and he was talking about one of the attempts of him, one of the bills that he wanted to bring to the state of Michigan, to make American laws the rule of the land. And unfortunately, a lot of people seem to think this is an awful thing. In other words, we don't. Representative Ajima and others are fearful that laws like the Islamic Sharia law and others could be brought into this country. Well, what I found very gratifying, and I would hope that you'd educate yourself on this, because it's been demonized already, like so much of the Republican convention has been. But the Republican Party platform included American sovereignty in United States courts in their platform. And I think that's a very significant acknowledgement that there is a fear, a legitimate fear out there that world-type courts are pushing to, and in some cases succeeding into interceding in American law. And I'm going to read this to you, because this is as simple as it gets. It said, quote, "Subjecting American citizens to foreign law is inimical to the spirit of the Constitution. It is one reason we oppose U.S. participation in the International Criminal Court. There must be no use of foreign law by United States courts in interpreting our Constitution and laws, nor should foreign sources of law be used in state courts' adjudication of criminal or civil matters." Now, that seems to be pretty simple. I mean, why would we want to get involved? Well, the problem is, in 1900, the Lacey Act was designed to protect endangered wildlife, and in fact, we now are subject to laws in other countries based on this Lacey Act. So, quote, again, this is the last sentence. "Justice George Washington wisely warned America to avoid foreign entanglements and enter into only temporary alliances. We oppose the adoption or ratification of international treaties that weaken or encroach upon American sovereignty." And that seems to me to be a standard, normal, totally non-controversial point of view. But in fact, an enormous percentage of our American elected officials and Americans do believe that we should sacrifice American sovereignty in our criminal system to foreign laws. And again, only one political party is standing up for this. That's the Republican Party. The Democrat Party generally is absolutely against this. So if you're looking for reasons to vote, this is one area where they stand totally at opposite ends. And thanks in good measure to Representative Ajima, State Representative Ajima out there in Kent County for pushing this issue in the state legislature here. And Another reason for you to pick up the phone. And here in Muskegon County, you could call Representative Marcia Hovey-Wright, Holly Hughes, or our State Representative Hanson and get them to support that.
And I think a lot of people don't know, as far as what he was talking about. I didn't know. I never heard that side of the story before.
Neither had I, the way he had presented it. Right. And we know that in other countries, in particular, Sharia law in this case seems to be the one that's most organized in terms of getting the changes for their benefit. But Sharia law has been instituted in certain areas. And again, like I say, you have a choice in America, and too often we're told by the cynics in the media that the parties are all the same, and in many ways, sadly, they are. But in many, many ways, very specifically, they are not. And if this is an important issue to you, now you have the tools to go at it.
This is going to be a very clear election. It just, you can see the difference in the two parties like nothing I've ever seen before, I don't think.
So far, it certainly does appear that way. The Republicans were quite clear. And, of course, the Democrat convention is, I believe, this weekend?
Yes.
Okay, so it's coming up. It's coming up. And interesting, just an aside, our someone who we really miss and really wish was still involved in state government, our ex-governor Jennifer Granholm, of course, is now got in addition to a $400,000 a year plus job for the University of California the university system. She also has a seat on Al Gore's Current TV, which I don't think we have here, at least I don't have on my TV. But anyway, Jennifer Granholm is now a television talk show host, something I aspire to at some point. So maybe I'll take her seat at some point down the road.
You're not as pretty as her, though.
That's true. But I have but you don't focus on my moles. You might focus. Yeah, watching her sometimes is just internally distracting.
Well, that's true,
but she took a page out of some of the evangelists' comments of old when she said that it was clear that God didn't like the Republicans because he brought the hurricane to where the heck was it? Tampa. And interestingly, she didn't retract that comment when the hurricane missed Tampa, that God had second thoughts and, in fact, decided to blast New Orleans. So, anyway, hey, we're going to talk about the jail. And, Commissioner Jagger, you are involved in this. And I would just, before we get specific, remind our listeners that as far as the jail is concerned, a new jail, anywhere between $20 and $45 million jail, that in this case the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats is almost non-existent. We're going to find out where Commissioner Jagger stands, but almost every Republican that I've spoken with and heard, and almost every Democrat county commissioner that I've spoken with and talked and listened to what they've said has voiced strong support for a new jail. So in this case, you have to look at the individuals. The political party doesn't matter. Yeah. So what are your thoughts about the jail? Because I spent a whole week on this thing last week.
Yeah, and I'm not involved in either committee. So, and I'm not told anything. So most of it.
Yeah, but you're one of 11 elected officials. Why would you not be told anything? That to me is kind of shocking.
I think they know my stance on it. So I think that I'm better off to be left aside.
And what is your stance? You already have your mind made up?
Well, I'm definitely going to vote no on anything that doesn't go out for a millage from the people. The people have the right to speak.
And by a millage, what you're saying is that if they're going to vote, if we're going to build a jail, we have to pay for it. And one way that you can pay for it is to have a millage where the citizens of the county vote and say, we think this is a good idea. We're going to borrow $40 million, let's say.
You know, in the last couple of years, we bonded, I don't know, $4 or $5 million, I think, to rebuild the courthouse. We've got, we did a couple million to build that new community health center. We got $5 million into our new computer systems. We've got $17 or $18 million went out to the wastewater for the new sewer pipe. We've spent a lot of money in the last 2 or 3 years.
Now, okay, but let me stop you here just for a sec. You brought up a whole list of big ticket $1 million type expenditures. I didn't, even though I'm kind of a junkie about this, I was unaware of this. You say they bonded it. In other words, they didn't bring we need $5 million for the courts to the people. They just said, we're going to go borrow it. We're going to issue bonds and debt the citizens of Muskegon County to paying those bonds back.
Yes.
That's right. Okay.
And that's really where we've done. We just went and borrowed the money.
But there's nothing wrong with that, is there?
There's nothing wrong with it because some of it had to be done, like the sewer line. We had to fix it. We couldn't have any more of them leaks out there. So it's all right. But how many times can you keep doing this? You got to pay notes off kind of as you go. You can't just keep.
Well, isn't there
notes.
some sort of? I know that there's a phony baloney. You can borrow up to a certain ridiculous amount, and we're only at like 5 or 10% of that. That's a phony baloney number.
Well, we can borrow $500 and around $30 million, I believe, on the credit of the county, and we're at 100 and I think 80 or 159 or something. It's in that area. Million we owe right now. So we have $338 million, I believe, on where we can borrow against the county.
Okay, but that's the phony baloney state law that says you can do that based on some kind of goofy little deal. But isn't there a method that determines how much you can pay based on how much you've borrowed? I mean, in other words, if we were to go out and borrow $300 million more dollars, would we be able to pay that back?
I don't think they're talking about that too much. I wouldn't think so. I personally don't think we have the money, but
how long would you have to pay it back?
Well, you borrowed over 30 years. Most of them loans
usually are 30 years.
30 years.
Mm-hmm. It would be the maximum.
Okay.
Well, let me ask you this then.
But you can refinance all the time. So I mean, you might borrow for 30 years, but I don't know that I don't know how you do that because we just redid a whole bunch of bonds. So. Are you redoing them for another 30 years, or do you do them just for the continuation of the original
Well,
loan?
that's true.
I don't know that.
We've been told, and this is common in municipal elections, or at least in municipal governance, that we're going to borrow. I think the quality of life the millage, which Muskegon voted for, 10 years ago, which was to rebuild the Walker Arena and the Frauenthal and some other things, that came due. And then it was renewed. It's my understanding, and I could be wrong on that. But so when they say it's only going to be for a particular period of time, it rarely is. But let's get back to your point, which was notwithstanding whether we need a new jail or not, or how it's going to be put together, which was the focus on the last week's the charrette. I call it the charade, but the charrette that they had of 4 days worth of meetings. Your point is, which is sort of like somebody interested in buying a new car. You don't hire a consultant to say what kind of car should the family buy. The first thing you do is say, how much money do we have? This is the way normally we look at things. If you're going to go on a vacation, you don't say, should we go 2 weeks in Europe on the cruise, or should we go 10 weeks? You say, wait a minute, how much money do we have? And then you look at the choices within that range. Have there been discussions at this point of the range that is prudent and that would make sense for Muskegon County to spend on the jail?
I think that there are studies out there, and they know about what it is. I don't.
Well, do you know? You're one of the 11 county commissioners.
I'm thinking that I'm like you. They rebuild it maybe for $10 million, but they can spend up to 50. Is what I've heard. Is probably the outside number, but I don't know how much they're going to spend or anything else. I really wish they would have come across first and said, "This is how many beds we need, and how much money we plan on spending." Because there's got to be other jails that size built all over the United States. Whatever theirs costs, ours is going to be. Probably roughly that same amount of money.
Be out there somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, so it can't be that hard to figure out.
Well, let me just add something that hasn't been brought up by our local newspaper, the Muskegon Chronicle, or on M Live. But Wayne County, which of course is the wonderful county that we apparently would love to be just like, which is where Detroit is located, they're just in the midst of building a new jail, and their initial promise by the must have been the county commissioners, because that's who ultimately makes the decision, was that their jail, which is going to be 2,200 beds, which probably is small given that it's Wayne County. But their new jail was promised to cost $300 million. Now they're saying it's about $65 million over budget, and of course it's not even near done. So, again, one of the things that we've got to concern ourselves in this case with Wayne County What's $65 million, really? It's nothing, right? In terms of people are spending it, except if you're paying it, it might be kind of a lot.
How does that happen, too? Because if you get a quote from a contractor, so to speak, and they say, okay, we're going to build it for $300 million. Okay, why are we over $65 million? I don't know. It just,
and the other thing about this is that there's, at least in Detroit, you've got somebody looking at, what they promised and what ultimately is happening here. Yeah. In Muskegon County, when there's a promise that we're going to spend a certain amount of money for a certain event, there's absolutely no media coverage as to whether they came in under budget, over budget, or even achieved what they wanted to do. But there doesn't appear to be any internal reckoning, any policy that brings back to the county commissioners and say, hey, wait a minute, we said we were going to spend $5 million, but in fact we spent $5.5 million, or even worse, we said we were going to spend $5 million, but it came back at $4.5 million, and we were able to find ways to spend the extra $500,000 that we had left over. Well, okay, but let's get back to your point. I keep ripping you on ripping away from that, but you're saying that the citizens ought to have a millage in order to vote to decide if we want to have a new jail.
Yeah, one of the things I read in the budget that came out this year was there's 4 things that were bad costs to the county, and the third one down in there says the wages and benefits was for the jail, for the sheriff's office, was one of the biggest expenses that hurt the county. So,
in other words, they were higher than had been anticipated.
Yes. When they were labeling the 4 things, this was one of the highest things. So they're already running. Their budget isn't balancing already. They have to have more money every year.
Now, we just reelected the sheriff for another 4 years, and he is the manager of the jail and the jail employees, in addition, which of course are most of them are sheriff's deputies, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And they're all unionized sheriff deputies.
Yes.
So we've decided that his management of this jail, which everybody tells us, including the sheriff, that it stinks, the paint's bad, the carpet's bad, the ceilings are bad,
the plumbing,
the plumbing is bad. He hasn't done really a very good job of being a maintenance manager.
Well, we have 3 maintenance people left. You can't count the airport, or they have their own, and some of the other stuff. Brookhaven might have their own, and like wastewater and all of them have their own. But we have 3 maintenance people. You can't imagine how many people go through all these buildings. And so they're not going to paint anything. They're not going to take care of anything. So now instead of working on anything, it's easier just to replace the building. And that's why you see mental health building expanded and new building, and as soon as this building's built, there'll be 3 other ones, because you've been in the training building, and how bad that thing is. So how long before we have to have a whole new training building? It'll be immediately found.
When I looked at it too, most of the stuff was plumbing issue. So if couldn't they go out and hire a really good plumbing contractor that could redo all the plumbing and do it right, instead of the piece and patchwork that they did, and then work from there as far as the ceiling tiles and because it seems like that was what the water damage seemed to be the biggest problem that caused a lot of the other problems.
Mm-hmm. Well, has that question been asked and answered?
Of course.
No, I haven't even started working. I have not heard anything where remodeling this jail is on high priority. I didn't see it this week. I don't think I haven't.
Okay,
they still could do it, but I'm just
all right. Well, let's go back again to again, if in fact you're convinced, and I've attended 2 of the charrette sessions. I'm not at all convinced that there was any interest in citizen input. It was clear that it was a sell job. Yeah. We've already decided to go. We've decided who's going to build it. The only things that we're going to play with are what it's going to be. And if you attended the meetings, I'm sure it was pretty clear that they've already decided what they're going to do. But the question then is, how are you going to pay for it? So there's essentially two ways that they could pay for it. One would be to say it's going to cost $40 million, let's say, and then have a vote. And the citizens of the county would vote, and then if they voted for it, we would then issue bonds and then ultimately pay for it. Or if they said no, then you have to go back to square one. And the other way that they would do it is just issue the bonds without asking the citizens.
Right. I tend to think that's the way they're going to go, because I don't think they can get to vote, but I don't know that. But
now, why do you think that, though? Because again, and before you answer, you're one of 11 elected county commissioners. It just seems odd to me that this most significant point of where we're going to get the money, which ought to be central to any spending idea, that you haven't been sat down either publicly or even in the little coffee area where you guys have all those monster donuts and croissants
there you go.
and free pizza and all.
Yeah.
But in the area where you meet beforehand, that hasn't been discussed. And hey, look, this is what we want to do, or this is how we might pay for it. You haven't had any of that?
No, we haven't really done that. The general public and where I've been, they just don't want it. They don't want any more taxes. They just don't.
The general public doesn't want a new jail, or they just don't want more taxes?
I don't think it's the jail. It's not the issue as much as it is they just can't pay for it, and they're worried about an operational millage. This is, the writing is on the wall that the jail cannot operate on what it's going to take in. And plus, $30 million, just think of 5%. What is that, $1.5 million a year?
Yeah.
More we're going to have to pay out. If it's they say 528. Let's just use 600 as a bed limit. We just went and signed a contract for $900,000 for medical use for a year. So if that's $900,000, it is now going to be $1.3 million for medical on 600 people. You can't do it cheaper.
Okay, so what you're saying operational, let me just clarify for the listeners, because building the jail is one thing. It's sort of like if somebody gives you a new car, they paid for the car, but you still have to pay in Michigan. You got to pay for the highest insurance in the country. Right. You got to pay for gas. You got to pay for maintenance. You got to pay for the dings and the rest of that. So if somebody gives us this jail, even if the county commissioners do all vote united, Republican and Democrat together with just a few little troublemakers like yourself, if they vote to go borrow the money, that's only item number one. We have to spend money every year, every month to pay back these bonds. But you're talking about operational. In other words, we'd have to hire more guards of some sort. We'd also have to pay a whole lot more money, like you say, in medical. If we're already paying $900,000 a year in medical, if we double it, we're going to pay something greater than that. Okay.
Right, and food. And my son came home not long ago for a couple months. My food bill went sky high. Well, you can imagine 200 more people ain't going to be cheap. The only thing you're going to keep hearing, and they say it all the time.
Oh, wait a minute. You're right. We got to feed them.
We got to feed them, and we got to clothe them.
Okay.
Right. But now, see, they're banking on getting this $30.
And you got medical care too.
Well,
like
medical
we just said,
right. And I think mental health will be up, but the mental health, he likes it because they actually get money out of Medicaid, I think, and everything else to help that. So they're looking at they can expand if we expand, I'm sure. So, I mean, there's...
You mean the Muskegon County Department of Mental Health would be able to re-expand, or at least would have more interest in and all this? Well, okay, what discussion have we had about this, the operational side of it?
The operational side, they keep saying the only thing you're going to hear is we'll have less guards, because they think they can do more with videos. And since you have all these cameras, you won't need as many guards as when we want.
So then we're putting all this money out. We have less people to hire. So
that seems okay. That seems not unreasonable. It's going to be more logical. I know the sheriff has very specifically said.
But what I'm saying is we're putting all this money out for this jail, and we're paying all the taxes on this jail, but yet we have less jobs coming into our community here.
I hadn't caught that. Wait a minute. So we're going to be firing jail guards?
I think they'd probably, as they retire out, they'd be gone. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
They're probably short-staffed already, if you really look at it. I'm sure we're already short-staffed, so they'll just keep what we have. I don't know.
Well, now, wait a sec, though. But your suggestion is that we're going to go. Now, let's be clear here. Even though they say it's a 300-bed jail, it's been operating almost at 400 or thereabouts for pretty much at least the last few years. So we essentially have a 400-bed jail. If we went to, let's say, 600, you're saying that, and the sheriff is saying, and the county commissioners seem to be on board with this, that in fact we would have fewer guards than we currently have to go from 400 to 600?
Yes. They're actually saying we can do it with fewer. But then again, if we build away from it, we're going to have, security of some sort, moving these people back and forth to the courthouse. The judge I had heard spoke against doing this, moving it away from the courthouse because of the arraignment things and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know that you really get away with it. I think it depends on where it's built, I would gather.
And they did come up, they settled on 3 locations after this charrette, was my understanding. One of them was building essentially across the street from the current county building, correct?
I don't know. I haven't heard. I didn't go to the last one, so I don't really know where they're. I think the day-to-day operations, I'm a truck driver, so I'm not going to get involved in whether we need this or that or whatever, because I don't think there's professionals out there that know what we need as a county.
All right, well, we're going to talk about those professionals when we come back after the break.
Hey there, we're the Bryan Brothers. This year we've teamed up with eSurance, proud sponsor of the U.S. Open, and USTA Serves to help change the game for at-risk youth, and we want you to help. Find us on eSurance's Facebook page to check out 2 very special youth tennis charities we're teaming up with USTA Serves to support. Then all you have to do is vote for your favorite, and eSurance will make a donation. Check it all out on eSurance's Facebook page and find out what you can do to help kids in need. Be a game changer. Visit facebook.com/eSurance. That's insurance for the modern world.
Detroit, Michigan, Motortown, Motown. The sounds of Detroit are on iHeartRadio. Groove to the Motor City's finest, Smokey.
Smokey was given to me by my favorite uncle,
Stevie.
The ideas come from experience.
Marvin.
I like all the people at Motown.
Diana.
Everybody was trying to outdo everybody.
And more. Check out the sounds of Detroit on iHeartRadio or at iHeartRadio.com.
I'm a professional drunk driver, so I take side streets.
I keep both hands on the wheel.
I turn off the radio. I drive with the windows down.
I don't make U-turns.
Don't tailgate.
Don't pass.
I don't speed.
Wear a hat.
Drive in the fast lane.
I'm a professional drunk driver, so
I've heard all the excuses. We know all your tricks. Drive drunk, get a DUI, I guarantee it.
A message from the Michigan Office of Highway Safety Planning.
Fall is right around the corner. And the perfect time to ride to Sandy's Harley-Davidson to see the 2013 Harley-Davidson motorcycles. Check out their selection of new and previously owned Harley-Davidson motorcycles. Stop in and claim your piece of history. The commemorative Harley-Davidson 110th Anniversary motor clothes and accessories are arriving at Sandy's Harley-Davidson. Stop in. The coffee's always on. Sandy's, located on the corner of M120 and M82, just west of Fremont.
News Talk 1090 is the talk of Muskegon.
Well, you dadgum government, you sorry so-and-sos. You got your damn hands in every pocket of my clothes. Well, you
Dadgum government. Well, we're finding some things out here with County Commissioner Alan Jagger at EyeOnMuskegon. Got Jim Riley here, the legendary Oscar, and County Commissioner Alan Jagger. Off air, we talked a little bit about something that I guess I had really kind of missed. There's the complexities of building a new jail are far more detailed than I'd thought. I'd like to add one thing. I did put on the blog. We've got 2 blogs. One is MuskegonPundit.com. And I had written a letter which M Live nicely did publish. I don't think it made it to the paper, but it was my comments on the jail and some questions that I believe are very critical and necessary to be answered before we go ahead and stick the taxpayer with additional money. Most of these questions have not been answered at all, but if you wanted to go see that, just go to MuskegonPundit.com, and I will add it to the EyeOnMuskegon.com blog also. And that's EyeOnMuskegon, one word, EYE on Muskegon. But this is critical, and again, this you have a right, and I would say that you have a responsibility to pick up the phone and call your county commissioner. In my case, the county commissioner has already been reelected, and that's Bob Skolnick in Norton Shores. And you've got the rest of them who are, well, actually, some of them have been reelected, or I guess none have been reelected except for Bob. Yeah. But some have been elected. Give them a call, in particular those who will be up for election in November, and ask them to explain to you what's going on. And if, in fact, they don't have the answers to the questions, like Alan Jagger in particular says he doesn't have answers to the very important things, then ask, how could you possibly vote for this without having these questions answered? And this is their responsibility. Their phone numbers, by the way, are on the EyeOnMuskegon .com blog. They're on the right-hand side. Interestingly, in the county directory, they did include home phone numbers. So we took phone numbers directly from the county directory, and you can give your county commissioner a call. And I think these things need to be answered. But let's
I believe a little bit of this on Chronicle, so because they should ask every single commissioner running and every commissioner that's presently sitting on that board and ask them just right straight out, are you going to ask the people for a millage to pay for this, or are you planning on bonding? They all know already what they're thinking, and that question should be out there before this election, so the people have a clear understanding whether they're going to do this, how they're going to do this.
I think that's an excellent question, and that's as simple as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, Eric is at every one of our meetings. There's no reason he don't walk right up to every one of us and say, "Look, this is just an answer. It ain't no problem answering it."
Now, you mean Eric Gertner, who is the Muskegon Chronicle reporter who attends almost every single meeting. I think that's a great question. Hopefully, we'll see the Muskegon Chronicle's editorial staff make a big stink about this, that stand tall, make an argument why this is a good idea, why it's the best idea, and make, from my standpoint, I'm not necessarily against the jail or not against the jail or for the jail, but I before you're going to go spend lots and lots of money, it seems to me that it makes sense to have answered things and looked at alternatives first. Now, you brought something off during the break, though, or brought something up during the break that I had totally missed. If, in fact, the jail is given to us for free, let's just say, however, we vote to buy a new jail, to fund it in a millage, and we go out and borrow $40 million. If we get the jail for free, it isn't free in terms of operational. We're going to have to hire, maybe not more people, maybe we will, but we're going to have to, as you just suggested, the medical's going to go up because we're going to have more prisoners. There'll be other costs that come along with it, with a brand new jail that's significantly larger. How is that going to be paid?
Well, there's a couple different ways. First off, we could keep prisoners from that year point to a year and a half, and we could make $2 or $3 on each one. And it
$2 or $3, what, a month or a day? Or
a day, which comes only to about $100,000 if you really figure it out. There's no money in that.
Okay.
But we all pay on $30 million worth of bonds so that he can make $100,000 a year.
No, by he you mean the sheriff. In other words, it's kind of a slush fund. Well, let's forget about that. But if we build this new jail, and let's just assume, which I don't for a minute believe, that we're going to save money on the number of jail employees, but let's just assume that in fact the jail employees stay the same, or they're dropped a little bit. But we do know that the cost of housing, as you've mentioned, mental health and food and clothing and everything else, for an additional 100 or 200 prisoners it's going to be a real number. So you said the term that there's likely going to be an operational millage, and there's a little historical precedent for this because the county commissioner, or the county board chairman, Democrat Ken Mahoney, has already gone on record as saying that he would like to have an operating millage for the Brookhaven. What is it? Brookhaven. Well, it's a
medical care facility.
But it's essentially a
retirement home.
A retirement home.
Right.
So in other words, notwithstanding the fact that they were outed when they had that that illegal closed meeting, and they came out and finally were forced by our lawsuit against the county, which the county lost and did pay for our cost, by the way. They were
the taxpayer paid for your cost, but anyway.
Well, yeah, thank you very much. That is a significant distinction. Yes, the county commissioners who violated the law did not pay for the costs of their failed defense. But there was $2.3 million which they loaned to Brookhaven, and then we subsequently found out that the reason they didn't want the meeting open was they also announced that there was another about $1.5 million that had gone in 2011 to this. So what the county commissioner, or the county commission chairman, and apparently with the support of most of the county commissioners, wants to do is have an operating millage for this huge money loser that we have in the county with Brookhaven. They want to do the same thing with the jail.
Well, I don't know that they want to do this with the jail. These are the kinds of things they ain't brought up. But you can see the writing on the wall as the state makes cuts, as everybody makes cuts. 2 years from now, the police for the county are not mandated he can cut that service
You
anytime.
mean the sheriff?
The sheriffs that are on the road patrol can be cut at any time. Marine patrol, out there in the water and all that. Any one of these can be cut at any time.
Well, what is mandated? What does the sheriff's department by the state constitution have to provide?
I don't really know. I know he's got he has a mandate that he's going to have a jail.
Okay, so in other words, every county has to provide a jail or some way to take care of prisoners in that the 0 to 1 year.
Yeah, I'm not even sure he has to have a jail. Cause I've heard a lot of talk. We could send everybody to Newaygo or to these other jails that have a lot of open beds. So
there's another problem too, right? That I see also, because it's not only about this, but the maintenance crew supposedly didn't take care of this jail right now. So what about the new jail? Are they going to take care of that one, or is that one going to fall apart too?
Wait a minute. We shouldn't blame that on the maintenance crew to start with.
No,
it's a lack of maintenance.
Okay,
well, the
lack of
management.
What about that?
Too many chiefs and not enough Indians. Right. I mean, it might be wrong to say that, but that's where the problem comes in. Right. It's not.
Okay, well, that's a great point, Oscar. Yeah,
well, if they couldn't keep it working this time, well, what makes us think you're going to keep it working the next time?
3 people, they're not going to keep it working. So.
Okay, all right. And has there been a presentation, this is a leading question, has there been a presentation showing that, in fact, why the janitorial and regular maintenance will be better in the new jail than the old jail?
No, they have. But we should get back to where the proposal to have an operational millage.
Yeah, now let's explain this.
I really believe that within a couple years, you're going to see them come through and say, we just don't have enough money for the police officers, for this, for that, or whatever, and we're going to have a millage on that. Now, no one's going to vote no on that, because now we stop seeing the police, we stop, maybe we couldn't even afford the jail itself.
Okay,
it could actually sit vacant. So
let me clarify. Let me clarify this. So you're suggesting that no matter how we get this new jail, almost for sure the money necessary to operate the jail and maintain it and do all the functions that are required once we have this jail, that we really won't have enough money in the county's coffers to pay for that. So that you're expecting there's going to be this old bait and switch. Vote for the jail and we'll take care of things, or not vote for the jail. We'll buy it. And then down the road, they'll come up with an operating millage. As a matter of fact, that operating millage won't just be for the increase. It'll just be some big old monster operating millage that might take care of all of the annual expenses, including all the pay and pension and everything else.
We have precedents right here in Muskegon County, because you got to look at Norton Shores. They just raised all their operational millage for all their police. So
they had a what do they call it? A public safety millage, which passed. Actually, I think 6% of the registered voters in Norton Shores voted in this, and it passed by just a few hundred votes. So in a district of about 15 or some thousand people, just a few hundred people voted for this public safety millage, which indebted Norton Shores massively. Okay, so this is the playbook. We're gonna stick the jail quietly, and then we're gonna say, oops, we don't have enough money. And we're shocked. We're surprised.
Yeah.
This just, everybody knows that inflation's out there. And then if you don't vote for it, you're going to lose your sheriff's patrol. You're going to lose your boat patrol. We're going to have to shut down half the jail. It'll be half empty. Is that the plan?
Well, I don't know that that's the plan. I'm not going to speak for any other commissioner, because they certainly would not say that to me. This is my thought of the plan. And I'm sure this is Occupies Muskegon's thought process, too. And I have to give them a lot of credit. They've been going everywhere and speaking about this, and we better, if they want this jail, they better get out front with some citizens and start saying why they need it and how they're going to pay for it. I know that.
Well, I let me add a little to this, because I went to one of the charrettes, the charade, and there was some discussion where they allowed people in the audience to make some comments about, well, what about alternative sentencing? What about ways to make the current jail work? In other words, are there ways that we can make this jail work, number one, by reducing the number of prisoners, and maybe some other ideas? And there were some, I thought, very good ideas. There were interestingly, some new ideas that the sheriff admitted that they were working on. We know that the judges have been talking about a drug court. We know that the two judicial candidates that we have, one will be elected in November, are talking about the addition of a drug court, which the net result of a drug court would be to reduce the number of prisoners, people who went to jail. In fact, they could have alternative sentencing. We also know that there's been significant discussion. I think they even had an exact amount. I think it was $5 a day to buy these ankle bracelets so that you could, you'd be sentenced to be home and things of that sort. The brand new, essentially elected county prosecutor also at least acknowledged by the shake of a head that he had some new ideas and things. Now, when I stood up, and I did stand up and ask the question, I said, look, we're sitting here with this group of, I don't know, there was many people in the room, 50, 100 people. Lots of new ideas acknowledged by the sheriff. These are new ideas or new ideas that they're working on that could reduce the need for the new jail and could make things more efficient are being worked on, or even new ideas are coming right up because it was interesting that we did have this large group of people. Wouldn't it make some sense to put the purchase of the new jail off for a year and really go full bore on these new ideas and see what we can do to come up with, using the power, the brain power of the citizens of Muskegon County and the brain power of the sheriff's office, the judges, none of whom, by the way, no judges at this meeting, and the prosecutor's office, and say, okay, if our goal here is to make the current jail work without spending $40 million and without doing all these other things and without creating more prisoners, which is the main issue for the derail the jail and the Occupy folks, wouldn't it make some sense that we work on these ideas for a year and see how it works? And the sheriff immediately said, we've been doing that for 20 years. We're not going to try anything else. Now, which is in direct contradiction to what he had just said moments before. So that's the idea. That's the point that they've made very clear. The sheriff has made that point, and I think most of the commissioners who share his desire for a new jail is that there are no new ideas. Everything has been tried. There's absolutely no possible way, nor is there any inclination.
Then they should be able to answer all the questions that people ask.
And there we go.
Well, there's two things. First off, all the programs cost money, and a lot of it comes out of general fund. So there isn't all this money. You take like this drug court. They might do 20 people. How much of that population in that jail has drug problems? So I don't know that it's a solution to all of it. And there's one thing the sheriff said that we always have to keep in mind. There was a victim to almost every one of these crimes. Somewhere. A lot of them maybe not, but a lot of them do.
Well, if these are drug crimes, though.
When you want someone put in jail because they robbed your house or whatever, you got to have room to put that person in jail for a while. They got to pay more than just go through drug court or something like that. There is a victim out there. We have to remember that.
And the county, the county sheriff, the county prosecutor, the judges, and the people who are behind this drive for the new jail, they've provided the information to you county commissioners and the public, showing that how many of the jail inmates have been involved in crimes against person or against homes, or they and they separated that out from people, for instance, who were picked up for parole violations and minor drug things and that sort. They've said, okay, of the 400 prisoners, 250 are violent and whatever, and 150 are not, or have they not provided you that information?
Well, we kind of have it. It's out there, and
it certainly wasn't made public.
It's not made public, but I do have people that look it all up and keep track of most of that for me.
Oh, that's okay. When we come back from the break, let's talk a little bit about that.
That is dumb. Dave Ramsey tells you why.
When you give your income to MasterCard, who named that anyway? When you give your income to American Distress, when all the money comes in and all the money goes out, you've got no money. So all you do is work for the man. Well, no wonder people get frustrated. They feel like a rat in a wheel. Building your credit is the biggest myth, the biggest lie that has been sold to the last 2 generations. Are you getting the idea?
Catch Dave weekday afternoons from 2 till 5 on News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon.
Today's hit music didn't just happen. It evolved from the roots of pop. The Beatles to the Beach Boys to the Rascals. The Supremes to the Jackson 5 and Sly and the Family Stone. The Rolling Stones to the Kinks and Creedence Clearwater Revival. Rock, soul, folk, R&B. It all began with the roots of pop. Listen to the Roots of Pop from iHeartRadio and iHeartRadio.com.
Serious about your growing operation? See Green Lantern H2O in Muskegon. They are the only hydroponic and organic growing supply outlet with a certified horticulturist and nurseryman on staff. Stop by today and let the ladies help you grow big. Open 7 days a week. See them today on Laketon Avenue and US 31 across from Checkers. Green Lantern H2O.
Fox News Radio, I'm Carol McHugh. Hurricane Isaac is no more, but problems brought on by the storm persist in certain parts of the Gulf Coast.
Water from lock number 2 along the Pearl River Canal in St. Tammany Parish, Louisiana, has been reduced by 3 feet and stopped overflowing. But the risk of failures forced the evacuation of hundreds of families. Louisiana and Army Corps of Engineer officials are on site evaluating.
Fox Radio's Sal Giangrasso, remnants of Isaac will bring heavy rains and strong winds across much of the Midwest today. Declining viewership for the abbreviated 3-day Republican National Convention has some pundits thinking, could this week's 4-day Democrat confab be the last of its kind?
I think this will be the last 4-day convention that we ever see. I think the rest of them will be 3 days or fewer because it's just a lot to cram in.
Fox's Brett Baer in Charlotte, North Carolina. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Here's the official News Talk 1090 WKBZ forecast for today. Sunshine and clouds mixed and warm with a high of 87. East winds 10 to 20. Tonight partly cloudy, a low of 64 with east winds at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Except for a few afternoon clouds tomorrow. Mostly sunny and warm with a high up to 88. North winds 5 to 10. And then for Tuesday partly cloudy with a high of 84. On Wednesday scattered thunderstorms are possible with a high of 81. News Talk 1090 WKBZ, the talk of Muskegon.
Taxpayers, and it's the dadgum voters who are really the problem. They don't see the enlightened their enlightened vision for our county. You had suggested, County Commissioner Alan Jagger, that we have this citizens committee for the Juvenile Transition Center / new jail that was appointed with much brouhaha, a committee position that I had been very interested in, and I contacted my county commissioner, Bob Skolnick, and he chose not to have someone like myself on that board. But Alan, tell me, you had gotten some feedback from some of those folks who were appointed to this commission.
Yeah, I went both to their committee meetings, and I've talked to them, and at least 4 of them now. And what we're finding out is they feel completely irrelevant. They're not. Most of this stuff should have been brought to them prior to this and let them do some of it for the citizens, and they have not made any decisions. They haven't went anywhere, and I worry about how aggravated they're getting, whether they're going to keep doing it or anything else, because they just don't. They feel like the decisions were made already. And
well, are they? And I know you haven't been on this board, but are they? For instance, I asked specific questions. I'll give you a good example of one of the questions that was in my letter to the Chronicle published, which was what has been done with the janitorial. You know, what's the study that says the jail is too expensive to repair? I've gotten, of course, no answer to that question. Are they asking questions like this and just not getting answers, or what goes on in these meetings?
I don't think they have any more information than I have. They're just sitting there saying, like, what is it we're supposed to be doing, basically, and what are we deciding on? I don't know whether it's when the whole thing gets done, they're going to hand them to say, this is where we want the jail and this is it, and then we're going to put the blame on you for taking it wherever we put it, or I don't think they know anymore.
Oh, Sheriff, what do you think? Okay, that's what we'll vote.
Yeah, that's where we're going to go.
Well, okay, let me ask you this. That's a great question, Oscar. This group, again, remember, each of the 11 county commissioners appointed somebody to sit, the Citizens Board, to sit on this board. Has the sheriff attended a meeting and answered questions?
Yeah, the sheriff is on that thing with them, and he does answer, but he says, well, we don't know yet. We don't know yet. We don't know yet.
Yeah, that's what the charade was all about.
But I think that,
but everything's been tried for the past 20 years.
That's it. I don't know what the citizen
that's what the sheriff himself said.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the citizen input is even at.
I mean, well, all right. This is we could go on forever on this thing. I think the important deal is, just like the folks who are actively protesting, perhaps as we speak, against male circumcision in Royal Oak, Michigan, that if you care about these things, you can change some things. We can't change the fact that we've got a society that expects that the government's going to provide breakfast, lunch, and apparently now dinner and many other things. But we can change here in Muskegon.
want fruit roll-ups.
Well, there we go. You know, my list of the needs, of free needs, is quite long also. And pick up the phone. You can go to EyeOnMuskegon.com, look in the right column, and it's got a link to these phone numbers. Ask your commissioners, in particular, ask those who are looking to run in November, because this to me is critical. We know what's going to happen. Alan has said he's seen it before. There's been precedent. You build a jail, and then you go, oh my golly, we didn't figure out we're going to need more money, and then we're going to get another big millage. And again, as I forget who was actually Alan, I think it was you. It's one thing for the person who owns a $100,000 house, and it's only going to cost you $26.14 per year. But it's another thing for a corporation who is thinking of moving to Muskegon, corporation who's already domiciled here thinking of expanding, or a corporation who is here already and thinking, if I moved down to Arkansas or to Florida or some other place, I would be able to provide my products and services at a much cheaper cost, because this county board has indebted us and made so many decisions that are business unfriendly that I can't continue nor will I continue to expand in Muskegon County. Again, we sit right next to a county that seems to be quite well run. It's called Ottawa County, and go down there sometime. They've got that. What's the name of the company that provides the rear view mirrors? Doesn't matter. It's a huge company. I believe it's a New York Stock Exchange listed company, and in fact, they are having an expansion that seems to be about the size of Freeport. This building is Fruitport. It's just an enormous building. Hey, I'd like to make one other quick change here. This has little to do with the city of with the county of Muskegon, but although maybe it at some point will. But to much happiness, and at least on M Live, this High Point Flats. The headline was, Muskegon officials can't wait until downtown apartments are available. And I'll just read from the first couple sentences here. It says, with the expected approval of a state financial loan and grant package from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, a development agreement with the city of Muskegon calls for the construction to begin in the next 3 months. And this is the old bank building where they had the big signs, no property taxes till 2026 or something like that. They're going to call it High Point Flats. And I would say that the developer, John Ruck, who's got a tremendous reputation of success here in Muskegon County and in West Michigan, he's involved, which makes me think that it's a legitimate program. But they've decided that there's no market, which makes sense. There's no market for condos downtown. But in fact, that there is a market for what they call market rate apartments, as opposed to the subsidized apartments. There's always a market for free rent, if you will. Right. But what got to me was that the apartment complex, which they say is going to take about 18 months to construct, so I assume this thing is going to happen quickly. The city is assisting High Point Flats with brownfield redevelopment incentive, which means free money from the state, and allowing, again, this is the city of Muskegon, allowing future increases in property taxes on the property to be used to help pay off some state loans of up to $750,000. And Cindy Larson, who's head of the Chamber of Commerce, said, quote, the sooner we can get these apartments available, the better. Quote, she says, there is a huge market for young professionals looking for upscale residential, but they're not ready to buy a house yet. They are looking for urban apartments like these. Now, I have never seen any study that suggested that there was a tremendous demand for these kind of apartments. It'd be nice to see some development go on there. It would also be nice to see the Muskegon Chronicle save these comments and just see how things work out a few years down the road, and see if, in fact, the state will be paid back to see that this is fully rented out with urban professionals who have been really, there's an empty market there. And this does matter. Because this money is going to be gone. It's going to be given to a developer. And we've already got condos, and who knows what they are, but that have been developed downtown Muskegon and right on the lake that seem not to have any human beings in them. Right. And we do know that our county is loaded with empty or horribly attended to apartments and houses where you've got, frankly, bad renters. But we're running out of time. Thank you, Commissioner Alan Jagger.
I would just like to thank everybody and have a great Labor Day tomorrow and have a big picnic. I mean, it'll be a beautiful day today, too.
Well, I would have a picnic, but no one's buying the food for me, so I'll have to put my picnic off and maybe get friendly with some of the kids over at the Muskegon school system, see if they can get me a fruit roll up. Hey, don't forget, hey, I am on if you need more Jim Riley. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm on the Talkin' Muskegon show from 8 to 9 o'clock. And next week, we're going to talk about these the initiatives again that may change how much you pay. If you're happy with the high car insurance, you don't really have much of a choice on that one, but we're going to talk about those next week. So, folks, hope you all have a great week in our little piece of heaven, even if you have to pay for your own wieners on this weekend. Next week, we'll put the eye on you, Muskegon.
Sometime.
The big sale, model year in clearance, is on at Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC. This weekend, make sure your plans include a visit to Benton. We have the largest inventory for remaining 2012 Chevrolets, GMCs, and Cadillacs. Shop over 225 remaining 2012s. But hurry, shop while the selection is best, and they're going fast. The time to save with the biggest discounts of the year is right now during the model year in clearance event. Only at Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC. Shop our lot over the weekend and pick out your vehicle and come in Tuesday for the 12-hour Labor Day clearance event. Plus, Benton has authorized their staff to pay even more for your trade during the holiday weekend. We'll pay off your current loan or lease regardless of what you owe. Shop our giant 20-acre motor mall. Hurry in and shop this Labor Day weekend. Only at Benton Chevrolet Cadillac GMC, the home of the 100% low price guarantee. If we can't beat any other dealer's deal, we'll double their price match guarantee. Both sides of Henry Street, Muskegon. Hurry. When they're gone, they're gone.
The Talk of Muskegon is News Talk 1090 WKBZ Muskegon and heard 24 hours a day on WOOD HD2 Muskegon.
Happy Labor Day